Hi, I'm Kelly. As a life coach, I've noticed that the work I do with people isn't about their relationships or their jobs. It isn't about their kids or even how to find a way to get all the laundry done. All the work we do together centers around finding the answer to one simple question. What does it mean to live a fulfilled life? Join me as I explore this question and more in conversation with others in the Fulfilling Life interviews with me, Kelly Dahl, as your host. Hello, it's Kelly, and I'm here today with Britta Alexander to talk about what it means to live a fulfilled life. Thanks so much for being here today, Britta. I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic. I know you have a lot of wonderful insights to share with everybody. So first, can you start off by sharing with everybody a little bit about you and the work that you do?
Certainly. Thanks, Kelly. I'm Britta Alexander. I am with Year of the Book, and I work with authors to help them plan, write, and publish meaningful books.
I like that idea of meaningful books in there. Do you find that a lot of the authors you work with are in that realm of meaningful books, or the meaning that's coming from them in publishing their work?
Definitely. I have a background as a literary agent, and our specialty was health, spirituality, and psychology titles. I also do a fair amount of business books as well, but typically it's business with a little bit of all that other stuff mixed in.
The wonderful world of heart-centered businesses.
Exactly.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's so great to have you here. As you know, we're talking about what it means to live a fulfilled life, and I'm talking to a variety of people to find out how individuals answer that question. So I would love to hear from you, Britta. What does it mean to you to live a fulfilled life?
Well, it was really fun thinking about this question. And what I sort of realized in my own life is that living a fulfilled life means designing a life where you thrive best, where you feel energetic, and just the life that feels right for you. And so that's your environment, creating an environment that's beautiful to you, surrounding yourself with people who energize you and not drain you. The community you live in is huge, and the work you do, doing work that matters deeply to you.
Yeah, I love that word thrive. That was my word for 2012, and it was such a great word to come back to, that idea of thriving and all those things that you said too that are a part of it, that make a plant thrive. We need to create those situations for ourselves so that we thrive, and that is most definitely fulfilling in a huge way. What are some of the ways that you bring fulfillment into your life? So thinking a little bit more specifically, maybe, what are the things that you do to make sure that you are on that path to living a fulfilled life?
I think that for me and for my husband, it's been making radical changes in our lives. We make a lot of decisions in our lives where other people are constantly thinking we're crazy. And, it's not that we don't feel fear, but we feel the fear, but we do it anyway because the fear of staying the same is just way more terrifying than taking a really big risk and just doing it. We've been in business together for a number of years, 6 or 7 years now. We've made, major changes throughout the course of our business as far as changing our focus of what we do, me branching out and launching this, sub-business of our digital agency, firing a client who just wasn't, working for us anymore, even though it was over 50% of our income, renovating a house in Florida that we tore apart and lived in while we rebuilt it, and then moving our business and our lives back to New York, where we originally met, even though we had a lot of, roots down there in Florida as far as having employees and a business, and but just knowing that we had to be back in a community that we really felt connected to. And so making that shift when I was 5 months pregnant with my second child.
I could see why people would say you were crazy for some of the decisions. So where does that come from, that making these what seem like crazy decisions to other people? Why move when 5 months pregnant instead of waiting? And why invest in remodeling a house and then decide
this isn't it. We're not going to stay. So I see some being able to let go and taking some risks. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from having a vision, and it was heartbreaking to leave that house. It was absolutely heartbreaking, especially for my husband, who did all the physical work. He raised them. I mean, it was crazy the amount of work he did, and the sacrifices we kind of made, while we were going through that process. We never got to do fun stuff in Florida, but we loved what we were doing together. But I think that, I think having the vision, and then also just knowing that going through something that might be scary, even though we don't have a big security net, I think just staying the same is just more terrifying to us than making big changes, even though they're really uncomfortable and risky. And the funny thing is, they always say, well, if you don't like it, you could always move back. Like, sometimes people kind of feel like that gives them some peace. But I would never move back. I just would never go back to the same place. Well, we moved back to Hastings, actually, but not to the same. I mean, our life here is completely different than it was the first time around. And I don't feel like I ever have moved back into my old life after I've made a radical change to create a new life for myself.
And I hear the radical changes are creating forward momentum for you, and that idea of growing and thriving again, to always be moving towards something that's going to bring more fulfillment to you, even if it's scary to get through it. Not thriving is even scarier.
Right.
Now the all those changes were definitely obstacles to overcome. I mean, I haven't moved while pregnant, but I moved when my daughter was 3 months old. So I moved with a newborn. So I know what.
Probably more difficult. At least mine was tucked inside me. And more
possibly, but I think you get through, and it's like you said. When we moved, my husband moved first when my daughter was 6 weeks old, and then my son and my daughter and I caught up a couple months later. But it was, again, that moving towards something that was going to be better for our family. So when you have that goal, there's a lot that you can get through that you wouldn't think, that other people would think, oh my gosh, are you crazy? That's just too much. So those obstacles have been there, those tough decisions, those tough changes. How do you get through those? What helps you to pack boxes when you're 5 months pregnant instead of saying, screw this?
Right. I think trust comes into it a lot. Sometimes we don't really know why we feel this strong urge to make a change, but intuition or trusting or just having faith that we're tuned into something, good in our lives that's leading us on a path that, even though we may not see the end result. When we moved back to New York when I was 5 months pregnant and had also a toddler, we moved on 3 weeks' notice, and we moved into a house that was fully furnished, and we rented it for a while. I think and it was, the expenses here in New York were far greater than they were in the little town in Florida we were in. But I think we just had conviction, we had a trust, we had faith. But as far as, the daily stuff, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Just trying to, when you're really in the thick of it, it is very stressful. And I don't know if in those moments I always remember to do my daily tasks of self-care, like drinking enough water and trying to get enough sleep. But, on a day-to-day level, trying to care for myself in that way, not overschedule myself. I'm very careful with how many things I take on and how many kind of people I'm around, because I just get really exhausted by being in large groups a lot. And so, doing yoga, meditation, eating well, sleeping. But sometimes those things just aren't possible. And I think, especially as a mom, and I'm pregnant now with twins, you just learn to find those little pockets, or any little pocket. I used to think I needed, a whole weekend of a yoga retreat to recover. But I think as a mom, I've learned that sometimes it's 10 minutes of just closing the door and not getting on my phone or something, but just breathing and just sitting.
Yeah.
And, just the mileage you can get out of a 10-minute, sitting session or just a deep breath even.
Yeah.
Hour.
It's very powerful. I agree completely. And I know all too well as a mom, it's difficult to find those weekend retreats or even nights out or nights off or any of that. So what helps you be able to tap into the voice inside you that tells you what you need to make sure you're drinking enough water, and also to think about what is going to help you and your family, your kids and your husband all thrive? What helps you hear that?
I think doing some programs online that have been really effective for me, reading really positive blogs like yours, doing programs with Hannah Marcotti, who really gets us back to those basics, and just realizing how much self-care comes from just the really simple acts. You think, you need that big, huge yoga retreat to, rejuvenate yourself. But sometimes it really is making your bed and drinking lemon water in the morning that starts your day out, in just a little bit of a different way, lighting a candle at night. So there's another blogger I read who has many children. I'm trying to think of her name. I can't think of it right now. But she writes about thinking about the hardest part of your day with your children and how you can reapproach that. And recently, mornings were horrendous for us. I don't know why, but my son just didn't want to get dressed every morning. And I ended up yelling every morning. And I felt so just horrible about it. And I would be breathing heavily and, just so stressed out in the mornings. And then I just felt like after I dropped them off, I just wanted to go home and cry. It was just such a battle. And so my husband and I just decided we're totally changing our morning routine. And this week, no one has yelled. Everyone's been calm. And actually, that calm has lasted all the way until bedtime because our days are starting so much better now. We woke up earlier. We gave ourselves more time, so we weren't so rushed. He's getting them dressed instead of me. So we just changed the whole dynamic.
Yeah, I love that idea of just changing things up and taking even a playful approach, I think can be helpful too. And because, like you said before, you can... With a big move, people say, oh, you can always go back. But even with small things like routines, you can try something new. And if it doesn't work, you always have the chance to try something else. We had a similar experience, too. And my kids are a little bit older than you. My oldest is yours. My oldest is 6, and my youngest is 3, so closer to your boy's age. But we pulled them in recently to say, we're having trouble with this. And we talked about... we put it as rules, but it was really talking about values and what will help everybody get through the days. So even pausing as a family to think, this isn't working. What can we do to make it different? So Britta, I think that action you take of taking a pause to say this isn't working, not only in something like your morning routine, but in bigger things like where you're living and where your work is going and whether your client is a client that is fulfilling to you. All of that shows how committed you are to creating a fulfilling life for you and your family. So thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. We all have a lot to learn from your experiences and also the way you approach just that questioning of what is going to help us thrive and help us feel fulfilled. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to reflect on all this.
Can you tell everybody once again where they can find you online? And I'll have all the links provided as well.
Sounds great. I'm at yearofthebook.net. And I also blog about intentional parenting at hudsonandhill.com.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. And I'll see you on the internet.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Britta.
Bye.
Bye.